The Daily Alaska Empire, August 6, 1945. New terrible bomb, now it's Jap homeland. Dramatic report by President. Huge weapon as force of 20,000 tons of TNT is report. By John M. Hightower, Washington, August 6. The most terrible destructive force ever harnessed by man, atomic energy, is being turned on the island of Japan by United States bombers. The Japanese face a threat of utter desolation, and their capitulation may be greatly speeded up. Existence of the great new weapon was announced by President Truman in a statement issued through the White House. He said the first atomic bomb, invented and perfected in the United States, had been dropped on the Japanese army base of Hiroshima 16 hours before. That one bomb alone carried a wallop more violent than 2000 B. 29 superfortresses normally could hand an enemy city, using old-type TNT bombs. Secretary of War Stimson followed through with a report that the blast stirred a cloud of smoke and dust so impenetrable as to make immediate, accurate observation of results impossible. The power of the bomb, Stimson said, is such as to stagger the imagination, and he asserted it would prove a tremendous aid in shortening the Japanese war. Stimson's emphasis on renewed speculation all over again as to whether Japan may be completely crushed by air attack without invasion. Japs given chance. Mr. Truman noted that the Japanese rejected the Big Three surrender ultimatum from Potsdam, and that this has been intended to save the Japanese people from utter destruction. Now, he said, with the new bomb, the Japanese may expect a rain of ruin from the air, the like of which has never been seen on this earth. The announcement heralded an Anglo-American victory at a cost of $2 billion in one of the grimmest battles of the war, the Battle of the Laboratories, to unlock the secrets of the atom and yoke its energies to military use. The Germans were striving desperately to win this highly secret contest in the closing months of the European struggle. Scientists agreed that a new epoch in both war and peace was probably at hand. Although much experimenting remains to be done, this newly controlled energy can doubtless also be used to drive rockets, planes, ships, and trains for constructive as well as destructive purposes. President Truman said the new bomb, which draws its energy from, continued on page 2. The age of atomic force ushered in with use of latest air weapon. Los Alamos, New Mexico, August 6. The age of atomic force, described by the War Department as most destructive known to man, was ushered in July 17, 1945, when a group of renowned scientists and military leaders gathered in New Mexico's desert wastelands to witness the results of the $2 billion experiment. The War Department disclosed today that the test took place on that date on an isolated section of the Alamogordo, New Mexico, air base. The blast from the test jarred windows and homes as distant as southern Arizona. At Albuquerque, 120 miles away, a blind girl, when the flash of the test lighted the sky before the explosion could be heard, asked, "What was that?" A thunderstorm delayed the test an hour and a half and blotted out aerial observation. The nearest lookout point was set up 10,000 yards from the steel tower from which the experiment took place. Key figures in the experiment took their positions 17,000 yards away. They were ordered to lie down with their heads away from the blast tower. Final assembly of the atomic bomb had begun the night of July 12th in an old ranch house. Various component parts were assembled from distant points and put together there. One false move would have blasted the scientists and their efforts into eternity. At the appointed time, there was a blinding flash lighting up the whole area brighter than the brightest daylight. A mountain range 3 miles from the observation point stood out in bold relief. Then came a tremendous sustained roar and a heavy pressure wave, which knocked down 2 men outside the control tower. Immediately thereafter, a huge multicolored surging cloud boiled to an altitude of over 40,000 feet. Clouds in its path disappeared. Soon the shifting substratosphere winds dispersed the now gray mass. The test was over, the project a success. The steel tower had been entirely vaporized. Where the tower had stood, there was a huge sloping crater. Atomic bomb developed in secret. Washington, August 6. The atomic bomb disclosed by President Truman today was developed at factories in Tennessee, Washington, and New Mexico. Mr. Truman in his announcement said that from 65,000 to 125,000 workers were employed at the project at Oak Ridge near Knoxville, Tennessee, at Richland near Pasco, Washington, and at an unnamed installation near Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Imperial Valley Press, August 6, 1945. U.S. uses deadliest bomb ever known against Japs. Washington, August 6, UP. President Truman Monday announced that an atomic bomb has been used against Japan for the first time with power equal to 20,000 tons of TNT. In a statement issued at the White House, Mr. Truman revealed that 16 hours ago, sometime Sunday, an American airplane dropped one of the new bombs on Hiroshima, an important Japanese Army base. Terrific power. That bomb had more power than 20,000 tons of TNT. The president's statement said it had more than 2,000 times the blast power of the British Grand Slam, which is the largest bomb ever used in the history of warfare. The president said the new bomb opened a new and revolutionary increase in destruction to supplement the growing power of the United States against Japan. The new bomb, he added, is now in production and even more powerful form are under development. It is an atomic bomb, the president said. It is a harnessing of the basic power of the universe. The force from which the sun draws its power has been loosed against those who brought war to the Far East. The first atomic bomb presumably was dropped from a B-29 superfortress. Looks to control. Reviewing the fearful potency of the new bomb, the president said he would recommend that Congress consider the establishment of an appropriate commission to control the production and use of atomic power within the United States. I shall give further consideration and make further recommendations to the Congress as to how atomic power can become a powerful and forceful influence toward the maintenance of world peace, the president said. Mr. Truman revealed that Sunday's use of the bomb signaled an American victory in a feverish race with German scientists to find some way to harness and release atomic energy. Before 1939, he said, it was the accepted belief of scientists that it was theoretically possible to release atomic energy. But no one then knew any practical method of doing it, he said. By 1942, however, Mr. Truman continued, we knew that the Germans were working feverishly to find a way to add atomic energy to the other engines of war with which they hoped to enslave the world. But they failed, Mr. Truman said. We now have two great plants and many lesser works devoted to the production of atomic power, Mr. Truman revealed. Employment during peak construction numbered 125,000 and more than 65,000 individuals are even now engaged in operating the plants.
The Waterbury Democrat, August 6, 1945. New atomic bomb blasts Japan in design to destroy mainland. Equals 20,000 tons of TNT. Our fighter planes assault Japs. Bulletin, New York, August 6 UP. The British Grand Slam bomb mentioned by President Truman is a 22,000-pound earthshaker, so powerful that one of them obliterated an entire granite island in the English Channel when it was dropped in experiments, the British Information Service said today. Washington, August 6, UP. President Truman today announced that an atomic bomb has been used against Japan for the first time with power equal to 20,000 tons of TNT. In a statement issued at the White House, Mr. Truman revealed that 16 hours ago, sometime Sunday, an American airplane dropped one of the new bombs on Hiroshima, an important Japanese Army base. That bomb had more power than 20,000 tons of TNT, the president's statement said. It had more than 2,000 times the blast power of the British Grand Slam, which is the largest bomb ever used in the history of warfare. The president said the new bomb opened a new and revolutionary increase in destruction to supplement the growing power of the United States against Japan. The new bomb, he added, is now in production and even more powerful forms are under development. Nature's resources. It is an atomic bomb, the president said. It is a harnessing of the basic power of the universe. The force from which the sun draws its power has been loosed against those who brought war to the Far East. The first atomic bomb presumably was dropped from a B-29 superfortress. Reviewing the fearful potency of the new bomb, the president said he would recommend that Congress consider the establishment of an appropriate commission to control the production and use of atomic power. Continued on page 4.
The Nome Nugget, August 6, 1945. Atom war on Japs. Atomic bomb more powerful than 20,000 tons TNT. Washington, August 6, AP. U.S. Army Air Forces released on the Japanese an atomic bomb containing more power than 20,000 tons of TNT and produces more than 2,000 times the blast of the largest bomb ever used before, is the announcement made in a statement by President Truman released by the White House. The bomb was dropped 16 hours ago on Hiroshima, important Army air base. The president said the bomb added new and revolutionary increase in destruction on the Japanese. It is an atomic bomb. It is harnessing the basic power of the universe force from which the sun draws its power, and it has been loosed against those who brought war to the Far East. The base hit was a major quartermaster depot, a large ordnance machine, tool, and aircraft plants. The city of 318,000 also contains the principal port. The president said the Germans for a way to use atomic energy in the war effort but failed. Meantime, American and British scientists studied the problem and developed two principal plants and some lesser factories for the production of atomic power. The president disclosed that more than 65,000 are now working in great secrecy in these plants, adding, "We spent $2 billion in the greatest scientific gamble in history in one. We are now prepared to obliterate more rapidly and completely every productive enterprise the Japs have above ground in any city. We shall completely destroy Japan's power to make war." Bomb is answer to rejection. The president noted that the Big Three ultimatum, issued July 26th at Potsdam, was intended to spare the Jap people from utter destruction. Jap leaders rejected it. The atomic bomb is now the answer to that rejection. The president said they may expect a rain of ruin from the air, the like of which has never been seen on this earth. He forecast that sea and land forces will follow up this attack in such numbers and power as the Japs have never witnessed, and said that this discovery may open the war in an entirely new concept of force. Continued on page 8.
Detroit Times, August 7, 1945. Atom bomb used on Japs, each big as 20,000 tons TNT. Washington, August 6, INS. The United States has unleashed against Japan an atomic bomb 2,000 times more powerful than any bomb ever used before. Declaring that the Allies had won the world race to harness the unlimited power of the atom, President Truman, in a statement issued at the White House, said the first of the highly secret missiles had been dropped on Hiroshima, Japan, just 16 hours before. The effect was apparently so devastating that airmen who dropped the bomb were unable to ascertain the results because of an impenetrable cloud of dust and smoke raised by the blast, equal to 20,000 tons of TNT. Work on the atomic bomb has been one of the world's best-kept secrets. It has been the most hush-hush of secrets since the war began, harnessing hitherto unused scientific principles which the world's scientists knew existed but could not or dared not unleash. The atomic bomb was developed most secretly in remote areas in Tennessee and the far west. The scientists with their daring workers conquered the secret. They were aided by the pooled research of leading world physicists. Mr. Truman warned the Japanese that unless they accept peace terms, they may expect a rain of ruin from the air, the like of which has never been seen on this earth. The president's statement said that the new bomb has more than 2,000 times the blast power of the British Grand Slam, which is the largest bomb to be developed up to this time. It is an atomic bomb, the president's statement continued. It is a harnessing of the basic power of the universe. The force from which the sun draws its power has been loosed against those who brought war to the Far East. Jap war power through. The president issued a sharp warning to Japan that the bomb will completely destroy Japan's power to make war. We are now prepared to obliterate more rapidly and completely every productive enterprise the Japanese have above ground in any city. We shall destroy their docks, their factories, and their communication. Let there be no mistake. We shall completely destroy Japan's power to make war. It was to spare the Japanese people from utter destruction that the ultimatum of July 26th was issued at Potsdam. Their leaders promptly rejected that ultimatum. If they do not now accept our terms, they may expect a rain of ruin from the air, the like of which has never been seen on this earth. Behind this air attack will follow sea and land forces in such numbers and power as they have not yet seen, and they are already well aware. Bigger, better bomb do. Secretary of War Stimson disclosed that an improved bomb would be forthcoming shortly that would increase by several-fold the present effectiveness of the new weapon. The War Department said that was not yet able to make an accurate report of the damage caused by the first bomb. Reconnaissance planes state that an impenetrable cloud of dust and smoke covered the target area, announcement said. As soon as accurate details of the result of the bombing become available, they will be released by the Secretary of War. The chief executive said that the bombs were being manufactured at Oak Ridge, near Knoxville, Tennessee, and at Richland, near Pasco, Washington, and a third site near Santa Fe, New Mexico start study of control. President Truman declared he would recommend to Congress the establishment of a commission to control production and use of atomic power within the United States. I shall give further consideration and make further recommendations to Congress as to how atomic power can become a powerful and forceful influence toward the maintenance of world peace, the president said. The development and harnessing of atomic energy was first believed practical in 1939, according to the president's statement. Although it has long been a dream of scientists, the fact that we can release atomic energy ushers in a new era in man's understanding of nature's forces, the statement said. Atomic energy may in the future supplement the power that now comes from coal, oil, and falling water, but at present cannot be produced on a basis to compete with them commercially. Before that comes, there must be a long period of intensive research. It has never been a habit of the scientists of this country or the policy of this government to withhold from the continued on page 2, column 1.
The Evening Star, August 7, 1945. Japs admit great atomic bomb damage. Weapons sent down by chute exploded in air, enemy says. Destructive power cannot be slighted, broadcast concedes. By the Associated Press, San Francisco, August 7. The new atomic bomb that shook Hiroshima was dropped from an American plane by parachute and exploded before it hit the ground, a Japanese domain news agency dispatch broadcast by the Tokyo radio said today. The destructive power of the new weapon cannot be slighted, the enemy report, monitored by the Federal Communications Commission, admitted. Domei quoted informed quarters in Tokyo as conceding that the new bomb had considerable destructive power. Earlier, a Japanese Imperial Headquarters communiqué used the same adjective in describing damage to Hiroshima as considerable. While President Truman's announcement said one atomic bomb was released, both the Tokyo communiqué and the later Domei dispatch referred to the bomb in the plural, indicating the Japanese could not believe that only a single bomb was used. A few dropped, Japs say. Domei said a few were dropped, adding, as a result of this wanton attack, a considerable number of houses in the city were demolished, while fires were caused to start at several points. The dispatch claimed Japanese authorities already were busy on countermeasures and declared that the history of war shows that the new weapon, however effective, will eventually lose its power because of discovery of ways to nullify its effect. Domei quoted its informed source as branding the bomb tactics a destroyer of justice and mankind, and public enemy number one of social justice. First acknowledgement. The Tokyo communiqué was the first Japanese acknowledgement that Hiroshima had been subjected to any special form of attack. Earlier, the Tokyo radio said a number of B-29s had bombed the city at 8:20 a.m., and an Osaka broadcast made a matter-of-fact announcement that trains in Hiroshima Prefecture had been cancelled. American reports said Hiroshima was engulfed in an impenetrable cloud of dust and smoke after the incredible blast, and the Japanese may be unable to gauge the amount of explosive used. Following is the text of the Imperial Communiqué, as transmitted by Domei and recorded by the Federal Communications Commission. First, considerable damage was caused in Hiroshima City as a result of an attack made by a small number of enemy B-29s yesterday, August 6. Second, the enemy appears to have employed new type bombs in this attack. However, details are now under investigation. Text of broadcast. Following is the text of the Domei broadcast as recorded in New York by the Associated Press. New bomb. The main reason which drove the enemy to the use of a new type bomb in a raid on Hiroshima yesterday morning is his impatience at the slow progress of the projected invasion of Japan's mainland, informed quarters pointed out here today. While admitting considerable destructive power for the new weapon, These quarters said the resort to such inhuman tactics is sufficient to brand the enemy for ages to come as a destroyer of justice and mankind, and public enemy number one of social justice. Describing how the enemy used such a diabolic weapon for the first time in raids on Japan's homeland, these quarters reported that a small number of enemy planes shortly after 8 o'clock yesterday morning appeared over the city of Hiroshima and dropped a few new type bombs. As a result of this wanton attack, a considerable number of houses in the city were demolished while fires were caused to start at several points. The new type bomb used by the enemy yesterday morning has a parachute attached to it and explodes in the air before reaching the sea. Hiroshima, page A3. Security Air Force equipped with new bombs suggested. By the Associated Press, London, August 7th. Some diplomats in London suggested today that Britain and America might agree to furnish a special air force equipped with atomic bombs to the United Nations Security Council. Such an air force would be under control of the Council for use wherever aggression might break out, but such use would not mean giving away the secret of the atomic bomb to the international organization. Missiles on hand for new attacks, spokesman hints. By Joseph H. Baird. The United States has enough of the new atomic bombs on hand to continue bombarding war-vital targets in Japan with them if the Tokyo government refuses to surrender, a military spokesman indicated today. While awaiting reports from reconnaissance planes on the damage done to Hiroshima, Japanese military base, in the first atomic bomb attack yesterday, officials said it was reasonable to assume that enough of the deadly missiles were on hand to continue the attacks. The spokesman recalled that about $2 billion had been expended on the atomic bomb program, adding that it was inconceivable, in view of this, that enough bombs for the immediate future had not been provided. Probably dropped by shoot. Military sources, without making a definite announcement as to the technique used in dropping the superbomb, were inclined to support Japanese reports that it was let down by a parachute. Also, officials said, it was probable that the plane carrying the bomb flew at a tremendous height to avoid damage from the explosion. Asked why the moderate-sized city of Hiroshima rather than Tokyo was selected as the first target, a spokesman replied, "Maybe we didn't want to risk hitting the Tokyo government buildings and destroying the very people who may make the decision to surrender." Meanwhile, little is known of the physical characteristics or methods of using the bomb, and it is likely that these questions will remain unanswered at least until after the defeat of Japan. For the present, the public must remain satisfied with President Truman's statement that it packs the wallop of 20,000 tons of TNT, the most powerful explosive until the harnessing of atomic energy, and 2,000 times that of the British Grand Slam, the biggest bomb used in the war. Weighs about 400 pounds. The most accurate index to the actual size of the atomic bomb was given in an Associated Press dispatch from London, which quoted an official of the British Ministry of Aircraft Production as saying that it is 10 times smaller than a blockbuster, but many times as powerful. This may be taken to mean that the new bomb weighs about 400 pounds. Blockbusters were the 2-ton bombs that were the first giant aerial projectiles used by the RAF against Germany. They were succeeded by 4-ton factory busters, 6-ton earthquakes, 11-ton Grand Slams. Speaking in extremely conservative terms, the British commentator said, one of the new atomic bombs would be equivalent to a severe earthquake and would utterly remove the place. Interest centers for the moment on the effectiveness of the bomb in ending the war with Japan. Soon after the new weapon was revealed by the White House yesterday, the Office of War Information began broadcasting to the Japanese the news of the terror which awaits them if they insist on continuing the war. Broadcasts begun. OWI transmitters in San Francisco, Hawaii, and Saipan broadcast the White House announcement in Japanese and other languages. The Japanese may now determine for themselves what the atomic bomb did to Hiroshima, a giant army staging area with a normal population of 318,000, and determine whether they want other areas so devastated. It is assumed here that if the Japanese elect to continue the war, their other primary military and naval targets soon will feel the blast of atomic bombs. Japanese air power in recent weeks has proved incapable of stopping attacks by B-29s and fleet-based craft dropping conventional explosives, and there is no reason to believe that they can now halt American planes carrying the newer and deadlier weapon. It was recalled here that the Joint Sea Bomb, page A6. Vatican paper expresses fears over bomb's use. By the Associated Press, Vatican City, August 7th. The Vatican City newspaper L'Osservatore Romano today called the new atomic bomb dropped on Japan a catastrophic conclusion to the war's apocalyptic surprises. It compared the invention of the atomic bomb with the invention of a submarine by Leonardo da Vinci, the 16th-century Italian artist and inventor. It expressed regret that the bomb's inventors did not, like da Vinci, destroy their creation in the interest of humanity. Da Vinci wanted to defeat death by thought, L'Osservatore said, but the road of men who have not his Christian charity must defeat death with death. This incredible destructive instrument remains a temptation, if not for horrified contemporaries, then for posterity, to whom little is taught by history. The Encyclopedia Britannica says Da Vinci knew of a method of remaining a long time underwater, but he refused to tell of it because of the evil nature of man. Nomura warns Japs US will not accept compromise terms. Former envoy declares countrymen have no choice but to fight on. By the Associated Press, San Francisco, August 7th. Kichisaburo Nomura warned the Japanese people today not to expect compromise surrender terms, although the Americans are frankly anxious to end the war quickly. The former ambassador to Washington, who yesterday characterized the Potsdam surrender ultimatum to Japan as the height of impertinence, today moved to further stiffen the national backbone in an interview characterizing the American people as hot-tempered. The former envoy did not mention in his anti-surrender discussion the new atomic bomb which first was released against the Japanese yesterday with a power-threatening extermination of the empire. Says Japs must fight on. After explaining American hot-temperedness and nervousness at length, Nomura cautioned we should not take these weak points of the American people at their face value. Although they are looking forward for a quick termination of the war, they are not the kind of people who will seek a compromise because of this. Keeping this point in mind clearly, the people of our country must not be misled by their sugar-coated words, and must fight to our heart's content with our own power alone. Nomura's comments were broadcast by the Tokyo radio and recorded by the Federal Communications Commission, which likewise heard a varied group of Japanese broadcasts, indicating to some extent the curtailment of activities which the war has caused in Japanese national life. Transportation is problem. In one report, the Bank of Japan announced that because of communications damage and lack of labor, reports would be made but once a month and limited to scantiest details. Another told of a cabinet meeting in which the transportation of materials from the China continent, which have been almost wholly cut off by air blockade, was considered for the second straight day without an indicated answer to the problem. The death last week of Katsubo Kubo, counselor to the puppet Manchukuo government, was announced. Quoting dispatches from Malaysia, Tokyo announced again that Singapore's defenses had been completed and the majority of the resident Japanese have already taken up arms. With the entire Japanese-conquered Southwest Pacific areas now within range of Allied bombers and hopelessly cut off from their homeland, the Japanese Army announced formal approval of a plan for the preparation for liberation of the East Indies. New ultimatum based on atomic bomb predicted. Question of whether all allies will share secret is raised. By the Associated Press, London, August 7th. A new surrender ultimatum to Japan, backed by the threat of the atomic bomb, was forecast in the British press today, and the question was raised whether the United States and Britain would see fit to share their secret with other allied nations. Military officials in Washington also expressed confidence that a new ultimatum would be given Japan. One official said it doesn't seem possible that the Japanese warlords would stand by and watch their people annihilated. British experts on military, scientific, and international affairs, busy making calculations on the effects of the awesome development, said the bomb would influence all future international relations and produce the alarming problem of how to control it. How far it will be possible or wise to diffuse generally over the world the knowledge of how to make these bombs poses a vitally important problem, said Professor Gilbert Murray, joint president of the League of Nations Union since 1938. There are enormous difficulties in keeping it as a secret of one or two nations. 48-hour time limit seen. The Daily Mail, in a Washington dispatch, quoted reliable sources in the United States Capitol as saying the Allies would serve Japan another ultimatum threatening to bomb her into oblivion with the new weapon unless she surrendered unconditionally. The ultimatum would carry a 48-hour time limit, the Daily Mail said. There was no immediate confirmation from official quarters. However, Allied propagandists already were at work bombarding Japan with radio accounts of the new bomb and its potentialities. Professor Murray said that the League Committee of Intellectual Cooperation once considered a proposal that all scientific inventions of military importance should be published immediately, but that it was argued that a nation, feeling its security depended on some military secret, would never be willing to give up that secret. Security issue vastly expanded. One can see the argument on both sides, Professor Murray said, but I feel the atomic bomb has produced a very interesting problem and a very alarming one. The Manchester Guardian declared that man is at last well on the way to the mastery of the means of destroying himself utterly. Military experts said that some of the great strategic issues which have been bones of contention among nations now take on an entirely new aspect. Security, they said, can no longer be defined by control of certain ports or canals, and a frontier on this or that river or mountain will not add an iota of strategic advantage in event of further conflict. Nothing less than international peace will give security, one military commentator said. Hopes for quick end of war. Britain's first gasp of amazement at the power of the atomic bomb and the hopes it spurred for a quick end of the Japanese war sobered into an odd realization of its vast potentialities in peace, as well as in war. It might produce something that will revolutionize all industrial life, said Sir John Anderson, who as Lord President of the Council in Britain's wartime cabinet shared responsibility for the secret and costly research which developed the destructive weapon. There are great possibilities if energy on a scale presented in the bomb is made available to drive machinery and provide sources of power, he added. Dr. E. Slade, research controller of the Imperial Chemical Industries, one of the experts who developed the bomb which was dropped on Japan for the first time Monday, said, "This invention probably will have a revolutionary effect on our future lives. We have solved the problem how to release almost done. See ultimatum, page A6. Splitting of atom. As told in Star in 1939, big step in development of great new bomb." In 1939, Thomas R. Henry, science writer for the Star, wrote a story of the splitting of the atom, the second step in scientific research from which has emerged the atomic bomb, greatest force known to man. 3 months ago, Mr. Henry, now a war correspondent for the Star, went into Norway with American forces. He found evidence there of experiments by the Germans, who hoped to achieve the weapon announced here yesterday, but the censors held up his story. The story of the experiments here in 1939 is reprinted below from the Star of February 5, 1939, by Thomas R. Henry. Early last week occurred an almost incredible event, the splitting of an atom and the first release of atomic energy. By implication, it may be the most significant happening of our times. Man has got his hand on the throttle of the stars. On the other hand, for the present it is little more than a scientific curiosity of no practical use to anybody except workers in experimental physics laboratories. And for all anybody knows, it may never be of any use, although such a prediction would be flying in the face of precedent. If the accomplishment of breaking an uranium atom in two, reported simultaneously from Washington, New York, Baltimore, and Copenhagen under the most dramatic circumstances, can be developed to its full implications, the actual release and control of any considerable part of the energy that binds together all things in creation, hardly any predictions can be too fantastic. Very likely the best guess would be the wildest, and the day the puzzled Professor G. Hahn at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute in Berlin found a minute amount of barium contaminating a preparation of uranium, which he had bombarded with slow neutrons, may have constituted a major turning point in the history of the world. Can man ever fly to the moon, Venus, or Mars? Last week the answer of any sober scientists would have been an unqualified no. Today the answer may well be an optimistic maybe, with the actual accomplishment thrown far enough into the future. He certainly could if he had control of atomic energy. Could a big gun be set up in Berlin and bombard Washington? Maybe so, if this energy can be tapped and controlled fully. But it should be kept clearly in mind that this is not yet the case, and may never be. The difficulties in the way of tapping for practical purposes the binding energy that holds creation together are incalculably stupendous. The significance of last week's happening was that it was a beginning, the accomplishment on however small a scale of what the world's most eminent physicists work on. C. Henry, page A3. Members of Congress believe atomic bomb will shorten war. Legislators are ready to act on Truman's proposal for controls. By the Associated Press. Elated legislators today forecast that the atomic bomb would shorten the Japanese war and might mark the trail for revolutionary peacetime development of cheap energy. President Truman's announcement that the world's most destructive missile has been dropped on Japan found members of the Senate Military Affairs and Appropriations Committees ready to act on White House bidding as soon as Congress reconvenes in October. Mr. Truman suggested congressional establishment of a commission to control the production and use of atomic energy, which gives the bomb its tremendous destructive power. The fact that the bomb was being developed, one of the war's best-kept secrets, has been known to some senators for more than 2 years. Chairman Thomas of Utah told a reporter the Military Affairs Committee will expedite legislation setting up the Control Commission so that it can be ready to make a swift transition from war to peace activities when the Pacific conflict ends. While seeing the possibility that the bomb might shorten the war materially, Senator Thomas said he could not guess whether it would eliminate the necessity for an invasion of Japan. Senator Thomas and Senator O'Mahony, Democrat, of Wyoming, a member of the Appropriations and Military Affairs Committees, said Congress is certain to provide all the See Congress. Page A6. President due here tomorrow. Report awaited. Truman gives news of first atomic bomb to crew of Augusta. By Associated Press. Aboard USS Augusta, with President Truman, August 7th, President Truman, confident the new atomic bomb will shorten the war against Japan, today neared the shore of his own country, which he left 1 month ago. The president expects to be back in Washington by tomorrow, and soon thereafter will fix a time for his radio report on the Berlin Big Three meeting. Obviously eager to share his elation over War Department advices on the first use of the terrible new aerial weapon, Mr. Truman walked all around the ship yesterday telling crew members about it. First, he entered the officers' wardroom and, directing them to keep their seats, announced, "We have just dropped a bomb on Japan which has more power than 20,000 tons of TNT." It was an overwhelming success. He then hastened away to repeat the announcement to seamen lunching in messes elsewhere in the ship. Jubilant cheers arose everywhere he went. Typical of the comment heard on every hand was, "I guess I'll get home sooner now." Many domestic problems await President's return. President Truman will find the domestic pot boiling with problems when he returns to Washington. First off, Mr. Truman must complete his manuscript for the radio report to the nation he is expected to make within the next day or two on what happened when he sat down with Premier Stalin, Prime Minister Attlee, and former Prime Minister Churchill. The Big Three Potsdam communique left unanswered such questions as the use to which German prisoners are to be put, how European relief will be handled, and whether newsmen actually are going to be permitted to report on what happens inside Poland and the Balkan countries. Other problems. Whether Mr. Truman answers any of these queries, he apparently is going to have to say something about the size of the Army. Some legislators lately have been bearing down on the key that the Army is keeping too many men in uniform. Capitol Hill friends of the president expect him to stand squarely behind the high command if it maintains that it still must have 7 million men in the Army next June 1st. Because most members of Congress have gone home, Mr. Truman may not face any showdown with them until October. But he may have to tell the Army to release more transportation workers and coal miners. Shakeup impending. Mr. Truman also has some unfinished business on appointments. Secretary of State Burns wants to shake up the State Department, and Assistant Secretary Will L. Clayton may be the only survivor among present top-rank officials. Dean Acheson, another Assistant Secretary, reportedly wants to be Solicitor General, and it is doubtful that he would stay in the department even if Mr. Burns wanted to retain him. The President has yet to complete the formalities for appointment of Edward R. Stettinius Jr., former Secretary of State, as American delegate to the United Nations World Security Council. In this connection, Mr. Truman will have the final say on the form in which legislation to set up the office will be offered. The 4 other American delegates to the United Nations still are to be chosen, and a representative named for the organization's Economic and Social Council. The latter might be John G. Winant, now ambassador to Great Britain. There's not room for this, and you, in the same world.